So we are now live, budget and finance meeting on a special night, Monday, November 1st, 5:30 p.m. Our house lost power again during the day, so I'm trying to pull up the agenda. Bear with me 1 second. So we have no motion tonight. So I've got to do one more thing real quick. Sorry, everybody. I just need to do the legal disclaimer. And consistent with Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, this meeting will be conducted by remote participation. The public may not physically attend this meeting, but every effort will be made to allow the public to view and listen to the meeting in real time and participate when necessary. If you are calling in on a phone, you can press *9 to request to speak. If you are watching on a computer or device, there is a raise hand button that you can tap or press to request to speak. Please use either of these options to be recognized to speak. That being said, this is a Budget and Finance Committee special request to the Board of Health Director and the Board of Health. I don't think outside of the committee we will be taking any questions or comments from anybody other than the Board of Health Director and the Board of Health Chair. So that being said, we have a one-item agenda.
Melissa, has Max attempted to join the meeting?
He's here.
He's
Yeah.
here.
here.
Oh, I don't see it listed. Okay, good.
Check
Yeah.
page 2.
Yeah.
Ah,
So with us tonight, we have Councilor McCarthy, myself, Councilor Cox. If you're going to be on as a city councilor, I prefer you be on video. I have made this very clear with all of my budget and finance meetings that I think it's fair that if you're going to join the meeting that you are on camera the entire time. Thank you. So joining us in a little bit, Councilor Memhard was at a constituent meeting. So he is running a little bit late and will be joining us. But in addition to the committee, we have Councilor LeBlanc, Councilor Gilman, Councilor Pett, and Councilor Nolan. And let's see. And with the city, we have City Auditor Kenny Costa, Assistant to the CAO, Chris Sicaranza, City Clerk of Committee is Sherry Carvallis, Interim CAO, Frank Cousins, and with the Board of Health, we have the Interim Director, Max Schenk, and Board of Health Chair, Joe Rosa. Have I missed anybody?
I'm here now.
Oh, and Councilor Memhard has joined us. All right, just double checking. We have everybody. Okay. All right. So again, this is a public meeting, not a public hearing. We will not be taking public comment tonight. This is for us to ask questions about grant. It is a state grant from the Massachusetts Department of Public Health, a public health excellent grant program for shared services in the amount of $223,561.82. And its purpose was for improving effectiveness and efficiency of local public health by committing to regional shared service agreements to develop stable, sustainable business models. And the grant period was through June 30th, 22. So it's my understanding that we accepted the grant. We accepted it in June of 21. And we held interviews for a position that was 100% grant funded. That person was offered the job. It was sent to HR, and there was some delays. So there were some inquiries made as to how the process was happening. And it came to the attention of the committee who did the interviews that somebody else other than the person that did the best in the interview was offered the position. And that person, after understanding what happened, declined the position. And then after that, I was told that the administration authorized its return to the state without speaking to our regional partners to see if maybe one of them could have spearheaded the grant as opposed to losing it 100%. So Councilor McCarthy, if you want to go first with any questions or comments related to what I have been filled in on. Some of this happened while I was away on vacation. So I've tried my best to catch up on everything and also to speak to some of our regional partners regarding it. So I feel like I've got a pretty firm grasp on what happened, but Councilor McCarthy, if you want to add to that, and then we can get into the questions.
The only thing I'd add is I've been told, and Matt can maybe address this in his presentation, that this is a grant that's been around for a while. This was the first time that we, as a region, were granted this grant, and that this would be a renewable grant yearly. So it isn't that it was a one-time grant, that it would carry forward as long as we were issued the grant consecutive years. So maybe Max could address that, because that it's a lot of money for 1 year, but it would be a substantial amount of money if this grant was to continue for the city and our regional partners.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Memhard, if you wanted to fill in any vacancies that maybe that you understood what happened, and then if you have questions.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. My only concern and clarification here was that it was a regional grant, and we were taking care of the oversight of it for ourselves as well as these other Cape Ann and beyond communities, but specifically that this was for mental health treatment of youth in the community, which is a particularly important need that we all are aware of, and that this would have helped address that. And so it seems like a painful loss. I was not aware of anything beyond our original approval of the grant, and was looking forward to reports of its positive deployment. So that's where I am.
Okay. And just to be clear on who the regional partners were, Gloucester, Rockport, Manchester, Essex, Danvers, Beverly, Ipswich. So that was the region. It was definitely a mental health grant as stated by Councilor Memhard. And I think that's about it. So Max, if you would like to start, or if you want Joe to start, it's completely up to you.
No, I'm happy to. And can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you. So just by way of process clarification, I was stated that the person was hired, and then there were issues down the line. And the way the process goes is that the committee that did the interviews forwarded their recommendation to HR. HR is the only entity that can offer a job in the end, and they negotiate salary, et cetera, from that point. It was at that stage that the candidate was presented to the mayor's office for her review and consideration. At that point, the mayor had voiced some concerns regarding that candidate and over another candidate that she thought had better qualifications. That conversation was actually still going on to a certain extent when moving forward, Amy and I had had a meeting with HR to discuss the position and the candidate and their qualifications. But even before that happened, it was actually recommended by Amy that we think about, transferring the grant over to another partner within the coalition that had been formed. And so that's what was presented to HR at that time. HR went back to the administration. The administration agreed that maybe that's the best way to go. And that was in relation to a capacity issue more than anything. In the meantime, with all of this, Amy had verbally stated to me that she had been offered another position in another community. It offered, more of what she was looking for. Let's put it that way, because I don't want to delve into too many HR issues because I don't think I can.
Correct.
So with that in mind, currently filling in for the director and having to replace the public health nurse, to take another hit like that was a little bit too much. And so I had to make a strategic decision as to what we could hold and what we couldn't hold, and taking Amy's advice on whether or not we should, continue on with this grant or, let it go. I went with her advice and decided to let it go.
Okay. I have a couple questions. Do you want me to lead, or Councilor McCarthy, Councilor Memhard, do you want to chime in?
Go ahead.
Okay. Did the mayor sit in on the interviews? Was she
No.
part of that process?
No.
Okay. And did you ever offer the grant to any of the regional partners before returning it to the state?
Amy stated that she would reach out and check with them to see if anybody wanted to stay, and she told me that nobody, well, forgive me, let me back it up a little bit to answer your question better. So before moving forward with even that concept, Amy had the right idea of contacting the State Department of Public Health and the people that were involved with this grant to see what the options were at this point and whether or not providing it to another partner would be a viable possibility. And so we did have that conversation. It was stated at that point that the grant could only go to another Department of Public Health. It couldn't go to another partner, such as MAPC, Metro Area Planning Council, or the Beverly YMCA, two organizations that Amy had said that were thinking about it as a possibility, but it wouldn't work. So yeah, as far as I know, forgive me, because I am going based on what Amy had told me verbally, and I was trusting her as the director of the program.
Was it the committee's recommendation based on a certain scoring program that the person selected was the best candidate based on the interviews? Is
Yes.
that okay?
Well, yeah, I'm not sure about the scoring process on it because I wasn't involved in those myself. That happened outside of, I was already dealing with a number of things after the director and the nurse had left. So I left it in their hands. And I'm not sure actually when they held those interviews, but my understanding is that, yeah, that was the recommendation. That's what went forward. And that was
Okay.
fine by me.
So I guess what paperwork was submitted to the HR office in order for the mayor to come to the conclusion that another person was more capable of doing the job? And I don't know anything about the candidates. I don't know who was initially put forward for the job to HR. And I don't know anything about the subsequent candidate that was given the offer. So and we certainly can dig into this deeper and get those paperwork, because they should be part of the process of the interview process and everything, and they should be readily available through a request. So I'm just, if the mayor wasn't part of the interviews and she didn't see the paperwork, I'm just, how is she involved in the process to eliminate the person that, what I was told, scored the highest, and therefore somebody else was able to make the decision, not being based in the interview process? How is that person eligible to, outside of the fact that they're the bottom line on who gets hired and fired, but seeing that this is a grant, it's 100% grant funded, there was a process, there were questions asked, there were interviews, there was a committee set up to interview the candidates. And outside of that process, somebody else was able to eliminate the best candidate that was put forward and to offer it to somebody else that also interviewed. I'm just curious how that process went. And I know you're not part of it, but you're still the Board of Health Director interim. So unfortunately, you still own it.
Quite all right. So, and to my knowledge, the HR director was provided with those documents, so they would be sitting with her if you need them. Whether those documents went forward to the administration, I can't speak to.
Okay. All right. I think that's it for my questions right now. Councilor McCarthy, Councilor Memhard.
Yeah, I'll go if you want. Max, I understand there was a 4-person interview committee that was set up. They used a Rubik scoring guide to evaluate performance and put forth a recommendation. And if I'm listening to you tonight, it went to HR, and then the mayor interceded and wanted a different candidate, which subsequently Amy left at some point, and we actually turned the grant back. Is this a grant that's been out there for a while? That's what I'm being told, and it is renewable every year. And what are the chances that we get this back?
Well, whether or not it's a grant that's been out there for a while, I can't speak to. So I apologize for that. This all really happened before my time as interim director, and I was already busy doing some of the other things in the department. So having said that, I believe there was an opportunity for renewal over 3 years, but I would have to double check my records to be sure.
Okay, and I mean, what I put forth is there was a 4-person interview committee, and they recommended hiring someone. And was that person told that they were going to be hired, and then it was changed later by HR and the mayor? Or can you just be a little bit clearer on how that happened?
Yeah, I wish I could tell you. I have no idea what the conversations were between Amy and the individual involved. So you would have to reach out to her to know exactly what was said. I only know that the recommendation went to HR based on their review, and I didn't interfere with it, to be honest.
Okay, and ultimately, whose decision was it to turn the grant back?
That was mine.
Okay. Were you given direction from administration to turn that back? Was
No,
there
sir.
No?
Nope.
But there were no emails sent back and forth?
The only email really, let's see. There's an email, I'm just checking some notes that I made just to be prepared, a little bit prepared at least. August 11th, there was an email from Holly that was after the meeting that Amy and I had with Holly Dugwell, the HR director, in regards to Amy's recommendation to move the grant outside of this city and possibly with another partner. The only recommendation there was only an agreement from, forgive me, sorry. So at that time, Holly had said, I need to double check with Frank and the administration to make sure that this is something that they're okay with. And I'll get back to you. So she did do that. And she did reply that Frank was okay with moving it forward outside of the outside of the city. But at that time, we hadn't had our conversation with Department of Public Health as to whether or not we, could do that or what the other circumstances would be. And so that's when Amy had said, we should really touch base with them first before we know what we can and can't do. And that's when we discovered that it had to sit with a local public health department and couldn't be with another partner.
So what
Yeah.
other public health departments were there that could have taken this over? Because I know you said that you couldn't give it to a partner, which is not what we asked. It was more of a, we know it had to stay with the Board of Health, but how many other Board of Healths were asked if they could take over the grant before we decided to return it to the state?
Well, it would have to be anybody within the coalition that you mentioned earlier, but
Mhm.
Amy had told me that none of them wanted it, quote unquote. So I assumed at that point that she had communicated with them herself.
Okay. Would she have communicated with them via email? Is this something that we can prove or not? Because the regional partners that I spoke to were never contacted. And
Honestly, I don't know. You'd have to put in that request. I don't know. I wasn't CC'd on anything, I can tell you that. But again, as Amy is an amazing director for that program, it was a huge loss. But because of the great work that she did, I had infinite trust in what she told me. So I just went with her recommendation, guidance, and what she said she had done.
Councilor McCarthy, was there anything else?
I worked with Amy. She told me that this caused her to leave. This was one of her reasons for leaving. And I think it's really just too bad that we lost such a valued employee. I worked with her years ago and she was great. And I hate to lose an employee, and I hate to lose a grant that could be a 3-year or it could be even more than that. And especially with mental health. So I think we really need to look at the process and moving forward, how we don't do this again. We don't lose this kind of money that's put here to help youth and mental health. I'm just sorry to see this go and sorry to have had this happen.
I agree. Councilor Memhard, did you have any questions for Max?
I have no further questions. It's disheartening to hear the process as it unfolded. I'm sorry we weren't informed earlier about what was happening, but I would completely echo Councilor McCarthy's comments. It seems a shame, and we really have to learn from this loss to make sure that it doesn't repeat itself. It's such a lost opportunity for the city and the people who need these services, and it reflects poorly on our own Board of Health and our reputation with our sister communities.
To that point, Councilor Memard and Councilor Cox, it is a bit of a knowledge gap in my mind as to what is the proper process for notifying council in situations like this. Obviously, it's an extraordinary and an unusual circumstance, but what council process is there, that we should be following? If I'm not following a certain process, I definitely want to know that. But outside of, we wish we had known, it'd be nice to have an official process in line, that we can follow in the future. God forbid if we have to do this again.
I'm going to say in my 10 years, I've never seen the city give back a grant. But in my 10 years, I've never seen the mass exodus of employees that has happened this year. And it's unfortunate. I myself have talked to Amy. She basically contradicted everything you just said as far as what happened in the process. And it's unfortunate that we don't have accountability. It's unfortunate that you are put into a position and are so short-staffed that that there is no accountability that we can rely on to ever know what actually happened here. And that's one of the reasons why we're here tonight, is to talk about what went wrong, how we can prevent it. To my knowledge, there's no protocol, no hard and fast rule for communicating this to the council, other than just the plain open communication fact that we should be having within all of our departments. And, you know, it's a shame that, you know, maybe we need to start doing exit interviews, and this has nothing to do with what we're doing tonight, but exit interviews on people that are leaving, so we can better understand why people are leaving, outside of, you know, personal conversations, but so we can do better. Your department has been hit very hard this year. You have a lot on your shoulders. It's unfortunate that we don't have the accountability, but I can understand that you are extremely short-staffed, and that is unfortunate in its own right. And I don't think it needed to be that way. So, in your opinion, in your history with working with the Board of Health, what is your best guess or experience, if you don't have experience with returning grants, with how this is going to impact us in the future when we apply for grants with the same department?
Councilor Cox, can I interrupt real quick? City Clerk Joanne Sinos just called me. She says this meeting, she can't open the O&A meeting because her license is attached to this meeting. So it calls as for her as a co-host to this.
Okay.
So we're not.
Yeah, our intention was to only have it be a half an hour. So,
I can answer your question very quickly, though. So Jessica Scola is the interim director for the program. She and I had a very good conversation, and she's had also very good follow-up conversations with the grantor at the state at this stage. And they said they understood, considering the circumstances with COVID. I mean, everybody uses COVID as a reason for things, but it is true in this case for the department with COVID and the leaving of the public health nurse and everything else that was going on, and the director, that now may not be the best time, but encouraged us, you know, and look forward to working with us in the future. And I can send you those emails for sure. So I think they understand it was extraordinary circumstances. And, you know, I don't think it would impact our applications in the future.
in closing, I completely disagree with you that all of this is COVID related. This is a personnel issue and has nothing to do with COVID. But that being said, that's my opinion. And I, again, adamantly disagree with you that this is returning of this grant or the state of your department is not COVID related.
With all due respect, Counselor, hold on one sec. I agree with you that it's not completely COVID related. I don't think I said that, but it was a capacity issue, and which I had nothing to do with and nothing other than to do and to keep the department together as best I could with everything else that was going on. And based on the recommendations that was provided by Amy, and I have an email to that effect, that I did what needed to be done in order to hold the programs together. So I stand by my decisions and I don't step back away from anything.
And I understand and respect your, so I'm not, I think the departure from your department, and I say your department just because you're literally almost the last man standing, and it is not on you. I'm not saying that whatsoever. It's not on you. That part we can agree on. I don't think any of this is your responsibility or of your doing. We are happy to see any emails that you would like to forward to us. I don't think this discussion is over, except for that tonight it needs to be closed or postponed or further conversation at another date because of material that might come forward. So I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. Interim Director Max, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Board of Health Director Joe Rosa, thank you so much. City Council, thank you so much for showing. And I'm going to close this quickly with a roll call vote. Motion to adjourn,
So moved.
Second,
roll call vote. Counselor McCarthy,
yes.
Counselor Memhard,
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes.
Counselor Cox, yes. Motion to adjourn passes 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Thank you, everybody. Sorry for the quick departure. Have a good night.
Thank you all.